And welcome to Nightwatch. I'm your host, as always, Todd Sheets. Very glad to be here. Very happy to spend our time together to share information, to share our lives like we do every week. And this week, have I got an amazing guest for you up first. You really need to hear this story for yourself, and I'm going to let him tell it. But it's amazing, and the stuff he's going to tell you tonight is just going to blow your mind. Everybody, welcome to the show. Clif, hi. Clif.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Why don't you give us a little background about yourself, and let's talk about this project.
Well, basically, I'm a computer programmer run amok, released from the constraints of corporate reality, and started working on some ideas I'd developed over the past 10 or 15 years. Developed a way of looking at the language as it's posted on the Internet as, if you will, snapshots of emotion, and following and tracking the emotion of aggregate numbers of people across time, and using that to predict where that emotion is likely to show up in the future, and then work it back to linguistics, and from that we predict future events.
Wow.
Kind of makes sense?
Yeah, that's amazing.
I can give you the nuances of it, but mostly people, I start, talking about the various code and everything, and their eyes glaze over, and it really isn't to the point. But basically what we do is we operate on the following premise. All humans are psychic to some degree. That psychicness has tendency to leak out, even if they don't know they're psychic, into the changes in their usual lexicon over time. Now, I'm not alone in predicting the future. There's people like Dr. Dean Radin, who has done some remarkable work with laboratory subjects, predicting events 6 and 7 seconds out. But what we do is we try and aggregate that into a much larger view. And where he was 100% accurate on his 6 and 7 and 8 second predictions for his subjects, we're not quite so accurate, but when we are accurate, it has tendency to be a little bit more meaningful, I think.
This is all amazing, and you call it the Half Past Human Project. Why that name?
That actually goes to various different levels of meaning there, but it was from a series of science fiction stories that were aggregated into a novel in the 50s. Now,
you say everybody out there has got psychic abilities.
Well, it's logical. It couldn't be otherwise. Everybody is to some degree short or to some degree tall, to some degree thin or not, to some degree blonde or not. So, of course, all attributes. Some people see well and more than others, but, we all have some level of psychic intuition.
What brought you to this pathway? How in your life did you decide that you were going to go down this path?
Well, I don't know that I did make that decision. It was you make it sound like I know what I'm doing, and it was more like I sort of stumbled into it. One thing led to another. I'm just a curious fellow. I'm a very bad employee because I have a tendency to stop and wonder why we're doing things and consider why we shouldn't do them. And so I had a lot of time on my hands because I wasn't very employable, but I was somewhat talented. And so I ended up following this particular conjunction of programming, which you have to understand programming is, at its core, it's very much like magic, where you speak words and things happen. And in that sense, it's really cool. But it brings you back to the core idea of words and if you're at all curious, and linguistics and the nature of communications and so on. And then you expand that view out, and it just happened to lead me down this particular trail. And I was noticing a whole series of things. Now, initially, I think I came across the idea and started really working on it in 1994 and 95 and 6 and 7. I worked on the programming, and I had to have some target. So my original target was, it dawned on me that Wall Street was 100% run by emotion. And I figured if I could figure out what the emotional trends were of a particular stock, I could be there ahead of everybody else and make money at it. Sort of makes sense?
Yeah.
And very soon after I got involved in it, I started discovering a whole lot of stuff that made no sense at all, and dropped the whole stock business because I kept running into all these weird archetypical kind of references that were creeping out of the language. And they were references to the sun as in solar system. And they were associated with negative emotional sets that indicated worry and anxiety and so on. And this is in 1998. And I wasn't particularly worried about the sun in 1998, and that kind of changed in the year 2000 when the sun did its little pole flip and started shifting radically from its remnants of yellow over to its current white state.
Right.
So, even so, I was sort of prepared for it because I'd been tracking that from 1998 through 99 and into 2000. So it just kind of gave me a heads up, and as I say, I got distracted from the money-making component of it and started pursuing this other just because it was just too fascinating not to.
It's actually more rewarding, and in the end it will be.
Yeah, who cares about money? I mean, it's just little pieces of paper. Yeah, exactly.
That's it. And the thing is, I've learned, luckily, from doing this show, and even before that, as I was growing up, I was kind of seeing a trend, and I always found that the people who chased the dollar ended up the emptiest in the end. They may have millions of dollars, but their knowledge base is so small, and their friendships are small, and it's like...
And their impact on the world, yeah. Exactly. It's very hollow, yes.
That is the actual wealth that people should be striving to get, and you're out there doing it, and that's commendable.
It's really cool, too. I mean, I got to say, I'm basically just feeding my curiosity and seeing where it takes us, and so far, so good. Not everything has been pleasant or anything along those lines, but it has a tendency to reduce my own level of anxiety and worry about future events just because it's sort of a little heads up. You're not quite as startled when the large object hits the ground if you see it starting on its way down.
You kind of see it coming, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us back to the psychic level of things.
Oh yeah, but everybody has it at some degree. If you get them into a conversation, you can usually elicit that. Oh yeah, they've had instances where they remember knowing a minute before the phone rang that it was going to ring, and not only that it was going to ring, but who was on the other end. And tell me that's not psychic.
This whole topic is really clicking with me right now because even though I started out skeptical and I started learning that being around them has kind of supercharged me a little, I think, because
It's called sensitization. And it's when you go on out and you buy yourself a new red Honda and all of a sudden you discover everybody else is driving Hondas. And you've never noticed however many Hondas there were on the road until you got your own. And you've just become sensitized and opened your awareness to a particular level of reality that in the past your eyes had just sort of skipped over. And it has to do with the amount of units of data that any human can process at any given time.
I didn't even know it happened.
yeah, exactly. It's rather marvelous when it does happen, and we call these sync winks or synchronistic notes from universe. Hey, pay attention to this. It's important.
Does everyone kind of receive this information differently? Because for me, it's almost like I'm a memory card, and someone's taking a picture, and it's flashing, and it's going right on this memory card as a still image, and it's like a quick image that I see, and then it goes away.
Yeah, a lot of people report that. There appears to be I think if we actually got down to it, we could say that, there's maybe 6 or 7 main perception means. Some people get a trigger of an image, and they don't really pay attention to it unless there's also a nose hallucination in the sense of a smell that doesn't really exist. Then they know they need to pay attention to it. Or it could be that they have a sound cue, for instance. Other people like to look around and just observe what's being presented to them in reality. So, for instance, when they log onto their computer, they'll instantly check the time, and they'll be surprised, for instance, to see it comes up in even numbers and groups of, 11, 11, 3, 3, 3, that kind of thing, right? Then they know that universe is sort of talking to them through that particular moment of awareness, and they're trying to pay attention to their own thoughts that they were thinking just before that occurred, because that appears to be what universe is attempting to link up.
I thought, maybe this is the way it's manifesting to me because I'm very visual.
Sure, training that part of your brain, it's bound to occur, yeah. For me, it's all words, and, of course, I live in, when I was doing the corporate programming, that's all I did was put words to in the form of the bits and the bytes and make things go. So, of course, I naturally gravitated that direction. And you could probably have done the same thing if you could aggregate large amounts of people drawing items. You could probably have worked out an interpretation method that would pick up bits of psychic stuff leaking out. This is all incredible to me. And you also find similar approaches from what were known as the 5-bushel Taoists, who had in northwestern Japan or China, and they had this system set up where they were actually organizing an infrastructure around abilities that today we would probably call remote future viewing, in which they would predict the future for villages and tribes and stuff, and then set a, if you will, a health care insurance premium, and they would be paid in bushels of rice, but they would pretty much guarantee that, outside of these kind of problems, you're not going to have any real issues, and we're going to take care of your health care. And it was a very effective system that existed some 500 years. Basically, as I say, based on remote viewing the future. And they were just really good at it. I love the whole philosophy of the Tao. It blows my mind when I go back and look at the history of what these guys were saying and how really
a lot of people are just now learning about this. Like, there's that movie, The Secret. And a lot of the stuff when I'm watching that movie, I'm going, hold on. This is all stuff they've been saying, in China.
Right. Nothing new under the sun, right?
I'm going, what are you guys saying? This is like, I've read this when I was a little kid, and I picked up that book about the Tao.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the stuff from The Secret is directly from Lao Tzu. I was rather disappointed in some of these films, though, especially The Secret and one of the other ones. I can't think of a name at the moment, but they're presenting this thing, the concepts, halfway through and then stopping. And that really kind of annoys me, because nowhere in The Secret do they talk about the karmic implications of actually following their approach and being successful at it. And if you are successful at the approach and harmonizing the way that The Secret would have you go, you're going to achieve results, but you should be aware in advance that each and every one of those results, even if you would label them good, brings along a level of karmic attachment.
That's true. And, as I was watching it, parts of it, of course, are great because they're talking about positive energy and about doing good, but then other parts of it kind of freaked me out a little bit, because I'm like, golly, how selfish can this be? I mean, we already are in enough of a me society, and this is just kind of telling you to be more of the same. And I'm like, I don't think that's the solution.
I would agree with you. I do not believe that is the solution. I think it has to be the other way. I think it has to go back to the level of personal sacrifice that used to be laudatory. Hannibal at the bridge, that kind of thing.
Right. Well, and the fact that, I think on one hand they're saying, okay, we're all connected in the universe. We all have to work together and push away the bad things. And then on the other side they're saying,
hey, send me this. Yeah what is this? Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz?
Yeah, they're going, to hell with the world. Get what you can. I'm going,
right.
Which is it?
Well, it's, again, even the movie and the creation of it and the sending out those waves is going to have karmic attachment levels for the people that produce it and everybody that watches it. Hopefully it's actually an educational thing. And the universe has a tendency to surprise us continually, in spite of our attempts and even successful attempts to look forward into it. So it'll be interesting to see what the ramifications of it are in, even 2 or 3 or 4 years.
And I do feel like, we are connected in the universe as far as the energy level. I mean, the thing I liked about it was when it talked about how everything was made of the same matter and everything was made of the same energy, and how it just, right. I liked that part, and that part was